and they had these movable walls, and they had a bin that had things like foil, pipe cleaners, markers, sticky notes, string, for you to rapidly prototype. It's called low resolution. It's about failing fast. Try an idea. You could draw, you could put something together, low resolution prototyping, so you don't have to sink a lot of money into it. Fail fast and figure out something cool that you can create your own company, create your own destiny, right? I never wanted to run my own company. That just wasn't my DNA. I wanted to be the best at what I do, and I've been a teacher by DNA, I'll just say. God actually created me a teacher. I taught martial arts for a number of years. I've taught in the information security field, and I've taught in ministry. I'm a teacher by my DNA and my makeup. I like to teach. I like to share knowledge. I like to make other people successful in what they do. Mentor them, bring them up, encourage them. And if I can make people more successful than I've ever been, that's the legacy that I want to leave. I've already been there, done that. I had my internet fame for many years. Now, when I was in my 20s, like many of you, I was a bit cocky because I was well known. I would go to these conferences, and I was paid just to stand around so that people could come talk to me. And it was like I had my whole little groupies. You know, how would you like to get $3,000 a day? I was a bit cocky in my 20s, right? But I got past all that. It was fun. It was cool. Now mine was pay it forward. Go out and encourage other young people to do something exciting. You know, if I can instill the passion that I have in doing my career in cybersecurity and really light the flame and ignite the interest, that's what it's about. So like I said, mine's all been about building infrastructure. How to see defense in depth. Everybody understand defense in depth? You know, about the firewalls and the software controls, security architecture process, IDS, IPS, encryption, all those kind of trust and defense domains. That's kind of my expertise. You give me something and I'll immediately, boom, you know, I put a half dozen waves, we're going to break into it. That's my expertise. I'm not the one that's going to learn how to do code injection. I'm in a class for that right now, very challenging. But it's totally interesting to me, and the instructors, it's from San Jose State, right? Paul in the Wind, he's doing an excellent job of teaching. Anyone have Paul in the Wind for any class? He's big on gamification, right? I totally love his style. But it's challenging because I've always been on the other side. I've never been down at the code level. I started as a programmer thinking, you know, we didn't have secure coding back there. And what was interesting, and I'm going to share this in class next week, when I went out and looked at the Morse worm report that was released from NASA Ames, they actually have there were software engineers at NASA Ames that reversed engineered the malware. And you know what the buffer overflow was from? The gets command. That's the typical example they use in secure coding class to do code injection. We actually did that in our class. And so for me, that's like totally fascinating. I never did that side of it. It's hard. I'm not, who are you guys good at that? You like figuring out the stack and the buffer and all the no-ops you need and to put in there to get a root shell. Right? Do you guys dream about no-ops? How big does the no-op sled have to be? I don't know. Let's try another address. But that's a fascinating side because it's actually very, very challenging to write secure code. You know, we need static analysis. We need binary analysis. We need, you know, all kinds of automated tools to help us make code secure. I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars are spent after something has gone into production or near production to make sure it's secure. If on the flip side, we could put the effort into training people to design software security in from the beginning, understand the principles, like the class I'm in and some of the classes that y'all probably have, about what's the proper utilities we should use, and the memory management, and the compiler debug switches, and the operating debug switches to do address randomization and all that sort of stuff, whereas we didn't have any of that in the 80s. One example would be there's a service from AppScan to do a static analysis on a single application is $2,000. In an organization the size of Cisco, we have hundreds of applications. We cannot spend 2,000 times hundreds and 200 or 300 or $500,000 or $1 million a year on doing static analysis. It totally makes sense that you go back to the beginning and figure out how to design the software from a security perspective there. Right? What are my design principles? Am I going to do input validation? Am I going to use the proper routines and you know, doing all the character arrays and all that sort of stuff? Or I'm going to use Java because it's better. You know, you have all the other languages that they have, right? That's a whole field in itself. And for those that like to think and program, there's tremendous opportunities. You should be like, wow, you should have like ADD. I don't know what I want to do in my career now. Lots of opportunities. Lots of exciting stuff that you could do. And so even when I started at Cisco, I didn't know what I was just like, Cisco's cool, everybody's working for Cisco, I'm going to go work for Cisco, right? And so, you know, I came in as a grade 8. Out of college, people get hired on Cisco as typically a grade 6 or grade 4, right? One of those. We have, you know, a couple of people in here that work for Cisco. And occasionally, some people may be at grade, it goes 4, 6, 8, sometimes 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 on the IT side. And it takes a while. And it's not about when you think about, well, I want to be, you know, the promotions is not about getting promoted. You want to get promoted, you want to do well, but it's about what is the impact you're making? How are you actually helping the industry? How are you helping the company? How are you mentoring others? If that's your focus, then the promotions come. And you sometimes have to wait. I waited. When I got to grade 12, it was 8 years before I got to Distinguished IT Engineer. And a lot of people never wait that journey. They want that label, and so they'll switch, you know, I'm going to go be a manager, I'm going to go be a program manager, I'm going to go over and work on the engineering side because I'll get promoted quicker. And it's not about that, because it's a journey. Whatever you're doing now, you have to be, you may think, oh, I can't. When I graduated in 1989, literally, and how many people have had, well, there was a class back then, probably not. It was called Foundations of Math and Computer Science. Sounds kind of simple. It was a math class. My last semester, I still have no idea what it was about. Right? The average score in the test was about 30 out of 100. The problems took like 3 or 4 pages, and you had to write them out, back when you didn't have in-structure tests there. And literally, I would be crying at night because I had to pass that class to graduate. And it was horrible. The class was small, it was horrible, everybody hated it. And so after my grandma, it was like I was the first person and the only person ever in my family to graduate from college. So my grandma, it was like a big event. My grandma was coming out, I still didn't know if I passed the class. I go like, Nanny, I have to drive down to school. And in the olden days, think about that, in the olden days, they posted your grade by social security number. Now, is that smart? They wouldn't do that now. All I did was I walked down the hall very slowly, and I went to the grades were posted outside the door, and all I did was to make sure there was no D's or F's. And I'm like, okay, I passed. And when I graduated, I was like, I'm never going back to school. Ugh, horrible experience. But I'd already been working 5 years. I was already well established. I was already, you know, I could go out and make $3,000 in one day. You know, I was kind of cocky. I'm not cocky anymore. I'm just being real, right? And that's a mistake. Because in this industry, you're not going to get far if you said, I'm just stopping my education. And it's so competitive now, even if you just have a bachelor's, it's hard to even get on the interview process, right? To go on to get a master's, that's like table stakes today. And then you really still have to be continuous learning all the time, new technologies. And that was the wrong mindset. And so a couple years ago, I was like, you know, I really want to go back and get my master's. And going back to school after so many years is a bit challenging. And you're going to have detours, and sometimes life isn't going to be hard, and it's not going to work out, and you're going to have to pick up the pieces and move on. But the thing of it is just to have that attitude that no matter what comes your way, whether you get fired or you have life crisis or whatnot. You know, right now my husband is very, very sick. And they're having issues diagnosing him. I haven't worked a full work schedule this year. I've only been in the office twice. I've been working from home. And I may actually have to, and there's no actual option to drop the class. I may be in a situation where I can't even finish the class, which means I get essentially expelled from San Jose State University through measures beyond my control. That's just life. And then I have to reapply to get back in. And that's just life. Is it going to change what I'm going to do? No. I mean, I'm passionate about what I do. The information security field is exciting because it changes every day. I've been doing it for 26 years, but it's different all the time. There's something new to learn. There's a new technology. There's a new application. There's a new threat. The underground threat actors, and I'm sure some of you may have dabbled in the black hat hackers sort of stuff. But hopefully you'll switch to the white hat side. There's always something new. It's really exciting to do. And you know, people are like, oh, they're geeky. It's okay to be geeky. Do you know, I mean, how many people have heard of the Google security princess? Their chief, the girl, super uber smart, her title is security princess. Now, I would never take that. That's actually on her business card. But that's an established name, and she's uber smart. And she was at the panel last week at Stanford with the president because of what she's done. I mean, that's gutsy. She's like sitting in the front row, I am the security princess. We can hack it, and we can rebuild it. That's confidence. That's that presence. She probably wears Converse too. No, she probably totally rocks the stilettos. Okay, you're not going to see me in stilettos. You're going to see me in combos. But it's just about who you are, what legacy that you want to leave, and how much opportunity that there is out there. It's about continuous education, doing that sort of stuff. So some other, I know many of you are leaving. It's dinner time. I'm totally going to pass that, right? So, you know, looking at what I did, I had a lot of varied careers, a lot of detours. You know, I could have, fortunately, I didn't commit suicide when I was suicidal and had a full breakdown when I was in college, right? I didn't choose that route. It took me a long time to, you know, get over it. Now my husband and I run a recovery ministry. We help people who've been through a lot of drama in their life. So I've had really 3 careers in one. Right, I've been involved in SANS in the beginning. I spoke at their very first conference. Alan is a very close personal friend. And there's lots of uber smart people, way smarter than me, that work for SANS. But I have a lot of respect there. There's a lot of instruction. I did a lot of FIRST. SANS was a playground. And I pay it forward because of the time that Alan gave to me, mentoring me, and giving me a playground at which to make things, you know, a responsibility to make the things best as possible. I call it my playground, just like NASA Ames. You essentially can define what is your playground to make that impact in the industry. And it's okay if you just want to be, you know what, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I don't work 60 hours. The 40-hour work week is a total myth. So I don't want to, you know, totally dismember your balloon. But decide what you want to do. You know, when you get older and you have kids, the kids are your priority. When you have a sick spouse, the sick spouse is your priority. When you have life's challenges, you have to address the life challenges, right? So I've been in, people say, well, why didn't you go out? When I was younger and I did all that stuff and I was famous back then, my name was Crab. People are like, man, you can go out and start your own company. I'm like, that's not me. Well, you should write a book. Well, that's not me. Too much work. Right? And so I like work. I do something different for Cisco. I can impact people's lives, right? I have the influence and visibility with senior staff. I've been around, they know who I am. So much so, you know, that I have support from my management now for what I'm going through because I have put money essentially in the bank at Cisco. I like the company. It's an awesome company. There's awesome opportunities. And so that is what I've chosen to do. Today, it's not the thing that people stay at companies that long. But I'm 52, although I could go out and I could probably just, you know, hey, I'm available for hire. I think I could get a job relatively easy, although I haven't interviewed in since 1996. However long ago that was. But I've interviewed a lot of people. I'm sure I could rock the interview totally if I could, or fit my way through it or something. It would be hard. But you know, I don't, because what I'm doing is different. I get to still forge my own path on what I do. And it's exciting. There's a lot of stuff to do. And so I'm okay retiring at Cisco. You know, I plan to work at least another, probably not beyond 10 or 15 years, right? 65. And then I want to do my other job. My other job, I want to teach for SANS. I want to develop a master's program for security architecture. That's the legacy that I want to leave. And I've spoken to Alan about that, right? So the first thing, I actually need to have a master's. And then I want to develop a master's program for security architecture. That's going to be my second job. You know, I'll work as long as I can until I'm 70s. You know, I can have my own website. Dude, you can come work. You can be the CEO, and I can be your CTO. Okay, can we do about that? It'd be all cool, right? We have this young CTO, young CEO up there, sort of stuff. And then my legacy is about ministry. I worked in the ministry for 1998. I used to teach kids. That's actually how I learned the Bible. And the kids had nothing about correcting you when you're wrong. I'm like, be quiet, quiet. Okay, no, thank you. And so I enjoy teaching. I've done a lot of teaching in the ministry. My husband's a pastor. And now I work with people, and we have a recovery ministry. And recovery is just not about alcohol abuse, which most people think recovery is, but it's about low self-esteem. It's about anger. It's about depression. It's about sexual abuse. It's about domestic violence. There's a lot of things that's recovery. And so that's an important part of my life. And so when you're thinking about your career, it's about what do you want to do for a legacy? Who do you want to impact? What do you want your kids or your spouse? There's endless opportunities. And it's not about what country were you born in, right? Most of the people here look like they're, I'm like probably the only white person here. I'm just being real, right? We have the melting pot. I grew up where the neighborhood was mostly white. Now that's not we have the melting pot. You have lots of uber smart people from other countries who weren't born in the United States, or they're first generation people born in the United States, and bring a lot of different perspectives. That's one thing that's great about the Silicon Valley. It's diverse, both in nationality and gender and all the other ways that you can be diverse and ways to make an impact. So when you're thinking about your career and what you want to do, is what impact do you want to leave? Think about the opportunities you have, and when you dinker, and some of you in here may get together and actually start a company. Or Calvin here is working hard because he knows the importance of there's such opportunities in the InfoSec or cybersecurity industry that this should be a huge club on campus. Your president, Mo, I'll just call him, I've met with him so I can call him Mo, and I didn't know how important he was when I met with him and I got to go in. Anyone been in his office? I met with him a couple years because Alan wanted me to come out and meet with him. And he totally executed on what he told me a couple years ago. He was like, he knew the opportunity. I want to get more women into computers. I want to make an impact in this industry. I want to have cybersecurity. He started the cyber training camps in the summer. That dude, and I'm going to call him dude. Okay, I met him. He probably doesn't know who I am. But he totally executed on what he wanted to execute on. He says, there's opportunity here, and I'm going to create it. And so when Calvin connected through John Stewart, and John sent him my way, and I'm like, great. This is something I'm trying to do. We're trying to start this for Cisco women at cybersecurity. Here's a gentleman who's trying to start a cybersecurity community here at San Jose State. Tremendous opportunities, right? And we're trying to, in the whole scheme of thing about it with Cisco is how can we have a bigger internship with local universities, and my connection is going to be with San Jose State. One is my alma mater. One, I'm there now. Hopefully I don't get booted out of the program, but if I do, I'll still be in there. How do we get more people interested in that? How do we build this community and help them get jobs in the Valley? How do we connect them? How do we make San Jose State known for uber cybersecurity professionals? Like that's where the companies are going to go hire because they got it going on. Right? They have great instructors. They have great clubs that learn it. They get together. The students are very innovative. They're thinking. They take chances. They forge their path. They're not just, I'm an engineer, sort of stuff. Right? Just opportunity. Think about the opportunity that you all have. A few more keys. Are y'all bored? Hopefully not. This is my third close. Is you don't want to be the pontificator. Maybe that's a big word, but maybe not. Right? And the one thing, because in engineers we can do this, because we're not the ones to be apt to really speak up in a room. And I was known, because I wasn't like, y'all may find that hard to believe because I'm all animated, and I've only had one 5-hour shot today and 1 cup of coffee, so just kind of set the record straight there. I am the quiet one until you give me a mic or in a room. But what I was known for, literally, was the lean-in effect. I didn't speak that much because I didn't feel it was important to pontificate and just make sure everybody knew my viewpoint. But when I had something that was important to say, people knew that when I opened my mouth, they better listen because it was an important concept and I didn't speak that much. And literally, people used to call me the EF Hutton Effect. Because everybody would stop, look, listen. That's much better than you get these people like, do you want more of this? Right? You want them to listen. Okay, I used to be a total old school Star Trek fan, which is why I have this one. I found them out there, right? And interesting, know the lay of the land before you open your mouth so you don't make a fool of it yourself. Speak truth to power. That can be hard, especially when you're a female in a room full of you're uber smart female and you're in a room full of uber smart dudes. You're the dudette. with all the dudes. You have to have the confidence to speak truth to power, to stand up for what you know is right, especially with cybersecurity. And for me, and what I learned in part of my career is that I had to have the confidence and the finesse, because you just can't. When you speak truth to power, you got to know your stuff, and you got to do it properly. To go in there and say, hey, here's the risks at hand, and here's really what we need to do. And we have to tell them, we should not go live with that particular application, and here's why. You need to be able to have that presence to influence them. And it can be scary at doing it, and you might make some mistakes along the way. Right. The other one of my biggest rules is never assume you're the brightest in the bunch. It's all about humility. I'm definitely not the brightest bulb on the tree, but I can tell you I admit with everything I have. I'm probably one of the only distinguished IT engineers in this pilot group for the master's program at San Jose State. I'm definitely not the smartest student in the class, but I'm giving it my all. I think the material is fascinating. And okay, so I got a D on the midterm. I'll do better on the other quizzes. And ask questions. So when you're not the uber smart person, but you want to be uber smart, have confidence to go ask the uber smart person. The old adage, no question is a dumb question, is absolutely true. Because what you'll find, I've learned this so many times, when you ask the question, there's 1/3 of the room has the same question. But no one wanted to ask because they felt stupid. Case in point, last semester, I don't know if Professor Chow's here, it was all about the math. Euclidean, Fermat, all this sort of stuff. And I'm on IM. Are you getting this? I have no idea what he's talking about, right? I asked like 5 or 6 people. Everybody was totally lost. Nobody wanted to open their mouth. And so he's just going on assuming everybody's getting it because we're all like, we're all the seasoned professionals here, and I don't want to say that I can't do it. And so I literally asked, and I wasn't getting it, and I asked a lot of people, so I sent them an email, and I'm like, hey, we were all lost in your class. I said, I asked at least 5 people, and nobody was totally getting the material. I go, can you send me some pointers, YouTube videos or whatever, so we can kind of figure this out? And so, what a missed opportunity. When you ask questions, you really kind of, so be comfortable asking questions and have humility. It's okay. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. If you know all the smart people, that's pretty cool because you can go to them and they can help you out and get the questions answered, right? And I think it's the last slide, is literally you have to be a lifetime learner. Literally. Always learning. There's always new technology, new stuff. Hopefully I don't get booted out of the program at San Jose State because of the situation I have at home, which is out of my control. I mean, the important thing is that my husband, at this point, actually lives. They don't know what's wrong, but he's going to have some serious medical intervention. But I'd like you to be cool. I totally want to develop a master's program on security architecture. And then I'd like to get a PhD. Just because that's my person. I'm a teacher. I like to teach. And I like to learn. And that's where you can really be relevant. You have to stay relevant in your job because it's a very, very competitive world out there. Very competitive. And the companies are you always hear this, managing the bottom 5%. And we talk about, as soon as you manage out the bottom 5%, there's a new bottom 5% who wasn't the bottom 5% yesterday. And so it's a lot of competition. And it's about, how are you relevant? Are you constantly learning? Are you innovative? You should be passionate. I talked to someone this morning, people that reach out to me, and he said, I lost my passion. There's something happened. You should be excited about getting up in the morning and going to work because there's fun things to work on. And I remember when I was a programmer, it was always exciting. I'm going to debug this program. You're trying to find where the error is in the program. You want to get it compiled. You want to do it all the right stuff. And it should be exciting to you. It shouldn't be the old 80s gag me with the spoon, or it shouldn't be like sour milk in there. You should be really excited about what you do. So a lot of opportunities in this valley. Maybe some of you you're not California residents. Maybe you chose to come to San Jose State and you're another, maybe you live on the East Coast or something like that. Maybe you're not thinking of working in the Silicon Valley, but it's a global economy, everywhere. Lots of opportunities. And so that's all I got to say about that. Questions?
Questions?
They're like, Okay, how about if I stand this way? We're engineers. That wasn't what I planned or how I planned to talk, but hopefully there was some value in there. If I was able to inspire a couple people, make you think about what's an interesting career, made you think about some opportunities, or just encourage you in life in general, then I really accomplished what I came here to accomplish. And I intend to keep working with Calvin because I think there's an opportunity here. I'd like to see more women in the field. I'd like to see opportunities with Cisco and San Jose State. So you'll see more of me. So first, this gentleman back here, we'll go to John.
Have you ever witnessed worst security breach in your work so far?
Have you ever
witnessed worst security breach?
Have I ever witnessed one or worked on one? In my early days, that's what I did at NASA Ames, back when there was no tools. And so I was involved in a lot of security breaches. In the early days at Cisco as well. But now I'm not, I've done that aspect of information security. There's a lot of, usually when people get involved in the security field, excellent question by the way, when they get involved, a lot of times the first place they'll start is in the SOC, the Security Operations Center. They'll watch the blips, and they'll be good at looking at the logs, and then they get into doing the investigation, trying to discern from all the logs about what really happened. And then the uber smart ones are like the reverse engineers. They take the malware code and they reverse engineer it. That's a totally exciting part of the field, and I did that in my early days. So that's why I'm more of a big picture person. There's all kinds of, what was the latest, biggest hack? Anthem, yeah. Anthem was the latest big one, right? And it takes a while to see, and Sony was the one before that. Last year it was Target. There was a lot of stuff, interesting stuff that came out on the whole Target like 4 or 5 months later. And so the way you really learn, and often, like for example, you're not going to see any details, very few details published about Sony. I don't know what's been published about Anthem, but that's where you learn what exactly did they do. And you'll find in some cases, it doesn't take the super sexy attack to work. In the case of Target, I know because there was a lot of documentation on Target. Right, through internet, just for doing Google searches, they were able to get a username and a host name from the HVAC vendor. Right, the guy that did, you have this whole scenario that goes through the kill chain. Right, he bought the malware. There's sites where you can buy the malware. Sends the guy a phishing attack at the HVAC vendor. Once they were in there, discovered that the HVAC vendor through another third party basically just walked right into Target. Target had a flat network. They didn't have network segmentation. The point of sale devices were on the same network as everything else. That's how they got the malware. There was nothing super sexy about that. The code that did the wiping from the point of sale devices was written by a 16-year-old Russian kid who later sold it. So while there are uber sexy attacks from nation state actors or advanced persistent threat actors who are like the uber stealth dudes and dudettes, the simple stuff still works a lot of times. That's why there's such opportunity in the information security field, is how do you secure the infrastructure? So good question. I worked on enough of that. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of hours. I want something a little bit more relaxed. The whole raids were cool with the jackets and doing the grand jury and working with the FBI and the CIA and the OSI. That was all cool. I did all that. That was fun. So then I was ready for something else. But there's great opportunity in that. That's like the sexy stuff. Go back to Clifford. It's an old book, but oldies are goodie. The Cuckoo's Egg. If you haven't read The Cuckoo's Egg, great stuff. Lawrence Livermore, that was one of the first books published about, hacking and how he found it. It was just a few cents. I mean, that dude, he had to do a lot of old school stuff the way I did. Now there's all these automated tools and big data and coalescing and all this neat stuff that they can do to find the intruders. That's a totally exciting field in information security on there. Does that help? All right, John.
What do you think is the most interesting thing going on in cybersecurity?
Oh, that's a good question, but a hard one. What is the most interesting thing going on in cybersecurity? Right now where it's all at is, Obama's declaration about the new standard and sharing on there and workforce development. There is a serious shortage of workers. And so it's all about how do we get workers developed who are good in this sort of stuff. Because we have a serious shortage. We cannot defend. The next wars are being fought currently in the cyberspace. Right? The whole thing, how many people remember the RSA breach into Lockheed a couple years ago? 2011. That was a pivot attacks are the thing. A pivot attack is where they target one vendor because they're trying to get access to another vendor customer. So they targeted RSA because they were trying to get Lockheed to get to the next airplane, fighter plane designs. That was the whole reason. You know, the next wars are being fought in the cyber realm. We need cyber warfare people. And the thing going on now is, how do we train up the whole generation of people who are uber smart cyber defenders? That's why they have the capture the flag scenarios and contests, because it's hot right now. The cybersecurity industry is hot, right? They're hiring it away. What do you want to make out of college? $100,000? Okay, we need strong cybersecurity people. You know, I don't know what a grade 6 or whatever, but you know, that wouldn't be unheard of. Uber cybersecurity people, maybe $200,000. Right? They're in high demand. A lot of poaching going on in the industry. The field is in high demand. That's what's hot right now. And they saw a lull in the whole advanced persistent threat dudes and dudettes. Now they're seeing a resurgence of it. Right? There isn't any new, you know, what's the latest greatest? Like the whole 0-day attacks with the ghost vulnerability, that was pretty interesting. That created a huge effort for every organization, because since the bug was in the library, having to recompile all the code and redeploy, huge. Makes you think. Very hard to write secure software. Hot industry. Yeah. So you like to tinker, all that kind of stuff, dude, you're in the right place. Keep at it, right? Anyone else? Questions? You're like, anyone like, this talk totally sucked. That's okay. But I hope that there's some of you that are like, oh, I didn't get anything out of it. But I really hope that some of you have been inspired to really think about the whole cybersecurity industry. It's fun. I mean, I'm probably older than many of your parents at 52. I'm still kicking. I'm still learning. I still have a lot that I want to do in the next 10, 15 years before I retire from my first job and then go work as a teacher for SANS. That door's already open. So there's a lot of stuff. I hope some of my grandkids, I have 10 grandkids and 2 great-grandkids. I hope some of my grandkids, I have 3 granddaughters and 9 grandsons. I hope they get interested and do something in the whole cybersecurity. Even just like network security and Cisco Network Academy. I mean, Cisco has a whole networking academy. You can go out hot, right? Easy to do. Not as in demand as security folks, but being able, I call them rack and stacker. Some people just they dig the whole rack and stack stuff. The new shiny devices, I'm going to configure it and figure out how to install it in the data center and what kind of information I'm going to capture. That stuff's good too. It's all good. Any other questions before I pass it over to Calvin? Yes, young man here in the front row in the red.
What are your thoughts on cooperation between private and government entities, like, for example, Google, Facebook, or Lockheed Martin, and the NSA or CIA? Because it seems like both have good and bad that are exact opposites.
It's a love-hate relationship. So his question was, about the collaboration. Did you watch the Obama thing last week?
No, but I read.
They heard about it. Yeah. So what they've established is some companies in the Valley, and Cisco wasn't one of them. It's kind of interesting, but you have to share. You really have to share information. Now, the love-hate relationship you have between like Google and all that is you get to the whole privacy thing, right? They want to be able to break. And the NSA already can, right? Even a lot of organizations are looking at, now that you have a lot of traffic that's encrypted, then you really can't going on because it's encrypted, and okay, we have to break the code. And there's a lot of legal, political things in that for a company, especially at, NSA well, because they're watching stuff. That's a hot, really politically heated thing, but that's the only way that we're going to be successful as an industry. And corporations. So much going out now that everything's in the service, as a service in the clouds, you don't really know where your data is going. So encryption is a big thing, but you also want to be able to see what's in the encrypted tunnel. So there's a lot of, even at Cisco, okay, what are we going to do? We have to, we're working internally to decide, okay, we're going to break the encryption so we can see what it is going through. And there's a whole lot of legalese around that. So we need the partnerships, which is why the president has established this new let's share information, right? Cisco has a lot of relationships, has their own cyber intelligence where they provide to the industry. That's a huge industry, because in the olden days, like what you're doing, how you're grabbing information from the websites and you want to combine and provide it kind of as a service, that's what we had to do to get the information 15, 20 years ago. Now you have people that provide that as a service, the whole cyber intelligence. What's the latest, biggest threat that's happening? Right? That's how you learn about Ghost within a couple hours. You can go out to the blogs and they're talking about this new vulnerability, and then you can kind of figure out what to do. So I think they're needed. You get into the love-hate part when, the government wants, give me all your records, let me see, that sort of stuff. That's kind of hard. Anyone else? Questions? Yes, gentleman back there?
Was Cisco affected by the Heartbleed effect? Cisco affected by the Heartbleed?
Oh, the Heartbleed. So that's a good one. All companies were affected by the Heartbleed. So the Heartbleed was earlier last year on there. And again, a huge fire drill. So that's kind of a trend, going back to your question, John. The trend that you're seeing now is some of these zero-day exploits. And a zero-day exploit is when the vulnerability, people learn about the vulnerability after the exploit has already been published. Whereas, a vendor or a customer might discover a vulnerability in a code and they notify the vendor. Then once the vendor has the fix, and then they announce, oh, by the way, we have a security fix. So kind of like the Microsoft Black Tuesday sort of things. A zero-day is like, oh my, we didn't know this was an issue. Heartbleed, huge for the industry. There was a lot of Cisco products, a lot of things we had to do internally, recompiling and upgrade systems. And then we had Poodle, right? Poodle was about 4 or 5 months ago. And then Ghost is probably one of the bigger ones. I think that's bigger than Heartbleed. Because you're talking about almost everything gets compiled with the libraries. Now you have to recompile. If you're talking about third-party software, open source software, huge, huge ramification. It really makes you think about what's next. And that's where it's all about. The next wars will be are in the cyber realm. And so we need defenders on all fronts to help secure whatever country you happen to be in, whether it's the United States or whatnot, help secure our infrastructure. If you're working for a global company, how do you help secure their infrastructure? A lot of stuff out there. The underground threat actors are way better networked than the white hats. They share information. They sell information. There's websites where you can buy whatever tool you want to buy. Right? And the reason we have so much malware is because all you got to do is flip a few bits and then you have a new version of the malware. Right? Add a few more no-ops. Take away a few no-ops. Add a few, tweak this, tweak that, and you have a new version of malware. And it gets really hard to defend again. The thing is, you will be owned. That's the message when I go out and talk to people about infrastructure. You will be owned. It's all about limiting what happens in that ownership and how can you assure the integrity of your information and the integrity of your systems. It's just a reality. When you think about the company the size of Cisco, where we have 100,000 employees and contractors, about 70,000 employees, 65, 70,000 employees, 30, 35,000 contractors, that's a small city. You're going to have crime. There's people that, you go through limited restructures. They take all kinds of documents on their way out because they're pissed off. And that kind of stuff happens. You got to have data loss provisioning technology that's going to catch that. You want to have automated ways to address that without having someone to have to read all the logs. So those are huge ramifications. And Ghost was way bigger than Heartbleed in my sense, and much more serious. It's like, we got to fix it quick, sort of stuff. Good question, good question. Any other questions? One more.
How do you monitor deep web or dark web websites, Tor websites? How do you monitor deep web or dark web websites, Tor websites, the black market area?
I actually, I have a hard of hearing, so I just heard about monitoring websites, but not.
Deep web, dark web, Tor websites, how do you market the black, how do you, actually monitor the dark web, black market areas on the...
Oh, how do you know about them?
Yeah. So how do you monitor them?
Oh, how do you monitor them? Okay. How do the good guys monitor the bad guys? That's in the collaborations with the government, right? and watching traffic. Actually, it was the one I was reading about, and I was behind on my email, so I don't know the time frame. But Cisco had a Talos blog on it where they had learned how to inject advertisements into the web pages, and the advertisements were actually could own your data. And it was something they didn't discover right away, but I was just reading about it last week, and they were listing some of the domains, and I'd actually seen some of those. I'm like, damn, they got owned. It's just more, the underground is just very, like I said, well connected. They share information, they have training classes, they have schools, they have marketplaces where you go buy the stuff. That's why it's the good versus the bad on that. And hopefully nobody's in here is on the dark side, because sooner or later you will get in a lot of trouble. Please come to the, the good side and help out secure the infrastructure. That's what about. One last question. Calvin's like ready to take it over. I know it's getting near the hour, but hopefully you found this useful. Hopefully I didn't talk too much. Hopefully some folks are encouraged, and maybe when John Stewart in the next talk, it's double the size. It's packed out. So thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Calvin.
Thank you. Before Josh wants to announce something, I'm going to let you do that.
Where you have to break into different programs, and you get awarded points based on the difficulty of the program you break into. And there's different categories like exploitation, cryptography, reverse engineering, web apps, just any security topic you can think of. And we're actually, the SGSU InfoSec Club is actually doing a CTF on February 27th, the Boston Key Party. So we're gonna have updates on that on our club's Facebook group. So just make sure you guys keep checking out for updates, and we'll let you guys know like what room we're going to be meeting in and what time and stuff. So it'll be good for to get some experience, to get your feet wet if you've never done a CTF before. It's a great learning experience, and I highly recommend that everybody check it out. Also, if you'd like a flyer, we have like flyers in the back near the foodie that has information regarding our meeting times. And the room that we meet in, and basically just the stuff that we do. That's about it.
Thank you. Since Ms. Gal threw me under the bus, I'm going to throw some people under the bus. What she did mention is something that's kind of important. Grab a mentor. I'd like to introduce you to my mentor. Dr. Austin, could you stand? Josh? Stan, Matt, Armin, Dustin, Hanson, Stand Steve. Frank was here. Asif, Dr. Decay. I have a lot of people back east, Dr. Raska, Amani Ahed, Dr. Robert Kelly. They saw the video of the last event we had. And Dr. Raska told me, she said, one thing that impressed her was that, number one, she was the amount of people. Number two was the passion that they had. And she goes, number three, I couldn't believe the depth of the questions. So there's people that are watching you all over. And we're starting now to get emails from people in the industry, startups and other companies coming in, wanting to come to the club to meet you. And that's my passion. My passion to get in this, to see you do well. We have a problem. And to me, the best people that I know, forget Stanford, MIT, they're right here in this room at this university. So hang in there with us. We've got a lot of other things coming just for you. You know, you got to capture it and save the world. You know, we've got a big problem. All right? Thank you.